Gary. It is so good to see you again and to talk with you. We were going to talk a little bit this time about what baseball has meant to you and what you have learned from that sport. And so I have with me here Gary Varsho, who is still with professional sports. He played with a number of teams, but with the Pittsburgh Pirates and Jim Leland were some of the highlights of his career. He can share with us a whole lot more what his career was, and then we'll get into a little bit about his past and what baseball really meant to him and what it's taught him in life. And so, Gary, it's all yours. Go ahead, please.
Well, obviously a little background. I grew up in north central Wisconsin, and obviously I grew up in the country when I was little all the way to about fourth grade. And one of the things we always did when I was growing up was I had a baseball field in basically my backyard. No organization, just going out there and playing and really enjoying it and watching all the little towns play baseball on Sundays and chasing foul balls. And I just really had a passion for the game, and my mother and father both really enjoyed the game, and so I just took a liking to it. I didn't know how good I was. I just really loved playing baseball. So that translated into a little league, obviously playing up here in Varsho, Wisconsin. And again, we're not playing all year round, obviously with the 4 seasons. So, but as time went on, had a chance to play at the high school level and was good enough to play at a small Division III school, very good baseball school. Met a wonderful man, Dr. Russ Tiedemann, sort of like a second father for me because I was very immature as far as even physically. I didn't grow until I was a sophomore in college.
Wow.
But he taught me a lot of things about, I was homesick terribly, and I was only 2 hours away. And so I was like very homesick, traveled a lot back home. Never really saw the world. I knew Marshall, Wisconsin. I knew Oshkosh, Wisconsin. And Oshkosh was going to take me to a few other places that I was going to be able to go to. I mean, the biggest trip that I took as a kid was getting on a bus and watching the Brewers game in Milwaukee. So my travels were very, very limited. And Oshkosh developed an opportunity to get drafted by the Chicago Cubs in 1982, 5th round selection. And obviously that was going to be the first time it was really going to have to travel and be away from home and pursue a dream that as a little boy, I always envisioned. I mean, I had a room full of baseball pennants, baseball players, collected cards. I was just baseball 101. Played football a little bit, but baseball was always my passion. So that translated into, since 1982 to 2018, going into 2019, a full journey of baseball. So baseball has meant a lot to me, the journey that I have, and plus adding now the 3 children, 2 of them still, all 3 are in athletics. 2 are baseball. One's a baseball player, one's a softball player, I have a basketball player. But the translation of athletics, the baseball part, what I grew, how I developed, all really started when little on.
Wow. One of the things you talked about when we talked the first time when I met you was about your dream and not losing your dream. So if you could share a little bit about that. But it was your counselor that kind of was surprised, I think, with your dream.
Oh, yes. I think it's really healthy for young youth to have big dreams. What's wrong with that? How we're going to get there is the challenge.
Right.
So going through playing baseball and just being a little boy and enjoying it, I really enjoyed it. I had fun. I love playing. I love playing with my teammates and still have relationships with them today. It's just in our small little town. But it was really interesting when I became a sophomore. Now, again, I'm about 5'2", probably 110 pounds. And my guidance counselor asked me the question, okay, so what are you going to do? Your grades today, and then, what's your path? Do you want to go to college? Do you want to go to tech school? what do you want to be? This is my baseball coach is also my guidance counselor. And I said, well, I'm going to be a professional baseball player. And of course he laughed and he giggled and he goes, hey, it's really a great goal, but really, where's your interest? What do you think you're going to do? I said, I want to be a professional baseball player. And he goes, I know, Gary, I know that's a great dream, but you know how hard that is, but what is it you want to do? I said, Coach, I'm going to be a professional baseball player. And I said it 3 times. I'll never forget it. And finally he wrote it down. And I think he finally got it that I had this passion to be involved in being a professional baseball player.
Right.
So even though it was questioned, and it's really interesting, my parents never, ever mentioned this in our house. I mean, we talk about it. They knew I was a baseball rat. I was at the ballpark all the time in the summer, but we never really talked about it. That was the first time I was really asked about what do I want to do. And again, my room was filled with all kinds of baseball things. I was baseball 101. And that was just a passion and a dream. And so it's ironic moving forward that same guidance counselor ended up writing a letter to the Kansas City Royals to a scout, and he came and watched me play. And I mean, I was gifted with a skill set of running. I could really run. And I was a second baseman, and I really didn't know much about the game, but I just liked playing. And so the scout basically said, you need to go to college. And thankfully, UW-Oshkosh took an interest in me, which was probably the best baseball school in the state. But I knew nothing about Oshkosh. There was a hearsay. Somebody said something about me, and next thing you know, I'm going to Oshkosh. And my whole recruiting took place as coach called me up. He goes, would you like to come over? I said, sure. We went out and we went to this diner. They put the tray on the window, and we ate hamburgers and whatever. And we talked a little bit. And he signed me up for classes, and that's how my recruiting went. And
wow.
So the dream as a little boy, it just began that process. And obviously Oshkosh was the university was a very good structure for me to really understand a little bit more about the journey as I went forward.
You didn't let go of the dream, although you didn't have a lot of encouragement for it early on. And so what kept you in that dream? What kept you from losing it?
I just like being at the ballpark. And I would watch TV. I would listen to the Brewers on the radio, fantasizing about doing these things. And again, just talked to my son the other day. We went through some of my baseball cards, not mine, but as a kid, what I collected. And seeing my picture someday on a baseball card, that was a big goal. And it wasn't about money, wasn't about building a house. It was about being a baseball player. And I just knew that that's what I wanted to do. And again, I had enough success where I knew I was okay. I was, I didn't travel. I wasn't on an AAU team. I played Legion. I played high school. And then I played football. And then I went deer hunting and rabbit hunting. And then I come back and play baseball and just had a passion for it. But the one thing I didn't know that I was always able to play with a little older kids, and I could hold my own a little bit. And so I just was a very confident person, knowing that I just didn't feel like anybody was going to tell me no. I mean, this is the way it was. Whether I went to Oshkosh or a smaller school, I just had this vision that this is how I visioned it, and this is how I thought about it. And this is what I always talked about with my dad and my mom. We talked about it, but it wasn't really like, well, you have to do this and you have.
Right.
I just did it.
Right.
I just did it on my own, and I found the time to do what I wanted to, whether it was my brother throwing ground balls to each other, playing off the garage door, just doing things all the time, baseball orientated. So obviously doing well in high school parlayed into a potential, college. I mean, I could maybe do something in college, and it translated into, oh my gosh, I think a lot of people were surprised that, oh my God, he might get drafted. And sure enough, the Cubs drafted me in the 5th round. So there was never loss of a dream of knowing that I was going to have an opportunity to play. That's just the way it was ingrained in me. But my parents never talked about it. we never talked about it like, well, you have to do this and have to do that. Do you want to do it? Just then go out and practice. So I figured out as a little boy that this is what I was going to do. And so I know it sounds really odd that a North Central Wisconsin kid's going to dream about playing baseball, but I guess I wasn't going to be told no. And so that's the way I just was programmed.
The other thing that you talk about that kind of goes along with that dream that you never let anybody take away from you, you never let it become extinguished, was learning to be yourself. And you talk about how you learned that over batting, how people kept trying to change how you were going to bat. So you want to share a little bit about that?
Well, one of the things that, again, we talked a little bit about my specific skill set was I could run. And so if I put the ball on the ground and I was able to make contact, which I did very often, chances are I could beat some balls out. I can get to first base, and then I would steal second base and then potentially score. It was part of my game. So the evolution of Gary Varsho ended up being, okay, this is what I did in high school, and it was okay for college. And again, all of a sudden I got a little stronger and I hit some doubles. I don't really remember hitting any home runs in college. I was not that kind of guy. And so I get drafted by the Cubs. And so I get drafted. I end up going to Moline, Iowa, down in Davenport, Iowa, and start playing. And my head is full of nothing. This is how I play. Nobody taught me anything. I kind of taught myself.
Right.
And I was doing really well. And so it's really interesting in the dynamic of this whole thing. We have what's called a hitting coordinator. He goes from affiliate to affiliate. And he told me one day, he goes, you really aren't going to be able to hit the major leagues that way. You need to do this specific drill. Well, to me, it's like, this is the first time somebody's ever talked to me about changing. And so I said, okay, now obviously he's a paid professional. He knows.
Right.
So I started doing it. And eventually, as the season wore on, Gary Varsho got poorer and poorer and poorer and lost my identity, lost what I did well. And so really, this guy stayed in the system for a while. So 83 rolls around, I continued to hover, have some spurts, some inconsistencies. 84 rolls around, same way, but I'm moving up a level. So finally I get to AA level baseball, and for my third year, and there's talk of me being released. I know for a fact that in the room they were going to release me, and one guy saved me in the room, saying, you know what, I'll take him. Still at the AA level. That was our pitching coach, Dick Pohl, and he told me the story. And so I was still in the infield. I was transitioning to the outfield, learning how to play there, trying to find myself again. And all of a sudden, got a little bit better. I found myself a little bit, did what I did well. And it's ironic at that age, and we're talking about 1984, 85, 86, the level of instruction was extremely poor. Very hard to find a really good instructor that really knew about things, what you do well. Nobody really talked about that. But I met a teammate that said, this is what you do well. So I started going back to what I did well, and things started clicking. And eventually I got to AAA, and I had a phenomenal year. And we had really, really good instructors there, and had a phenomenal year. Did things that, again, what does Gary Varsho do well? And I'm not someone else. And so they were able to get me regrouped, where hit the ball I'm a left-handed hitter, so hit the ball the other way, use your speed. Again, as we mature, we get stronger, started hitting some home runs by accident, but understanding the maintenance of my swing. And eventually it parlayed into finally, after 6.5 years, I finally got a chance to break into the major league level. And so this story continues, though, because I finally get to the big leagues, and I do what I do. I lead the National League in pinch hitting that year, have a ton of success. The following year, our hitting coach there goes, Gary, you know what? when you come up and pinch hit, try to hit some home runs, try to pull the ball, try to do, win the game for us in the ninth inning when you come up with the game tied, that type of thing. And so you need to practice this. So wasn't real smart yet, but I wanted to stay in the big leagues, and I needed to stay in the big leagues because that's where, let's quote unquote, the money is. And that's how I'm going to create a pension. That's how I'm going to create retirement. So if that's what they wanted me to do, I did it.
Right.
Well, 3 weeks later, I no longer was a major league player. I got sent back on the AAA because I was doing so poorly. So I had to regroup again. I had to find myself again. And ironically, what ended up happening was I was traded that spring training to the Pittsburgh Pirates. Pittsburgh needed a fourth outfielder, a guy that could hit left-handed, could come up and pinch hit, same role I was doing with the Chicago Cubs. And I met a man named Jim Leland. And Jim Leland was the manager of the Pittsburgh Pirates. The best person I've ever met in the game, and the best person that understood this game is very difficult. This game is very hard to perform on a daily basis. It's mentally challenging. But what he did was he saw what you could do well. So I'm there the last week of spring training. And of course, I'm confident enough to say, to ask questions. So I go up to Jim Leland and I say, Jim, how do you want me to hit? And you really have to know Jim Leland to really understand this and get the feeling of it, because he is very good at putting it straightforward in his way. It's funny, but it's real straightforward. And again, I don't get discouraged at my language I'm going to use, because this is how Jim Leland talks, and you're going to hear the F word, but that's just the way it works. So I asked Jim Leland, says, how do you want me to hit? And Jim's a smoker, and I'll forget it. He had the cigarette in his mouth, and he pulled it out, and he goes, Jesus fucking Christ, I don't care if you go up to the fucking plate with your bat up your ass. Just get the hell on first base, and I'll take care of the rest. I was looking at him, and he goes, fuck, I don't know how to fucking hit. Go up and do what you do. Totally freed me up. Totally allowed me to be Gary. Totally allowed me to do, what do you do? What do you do well? Not what you can't do. I know what you can't do. Do what you do well. So when you do this well, just do it. The game is too difficult to do it some way someone else does, or what I want. Just do it. Ironically, I go back and do the same thing I did when I went back to college and in high school, and I had the best year of my major leagues. I had my best years with the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Wow.
What he also did, though, what people don't realize is, and I relay this story as well, I'm a contact wearer. If I have a refraction of, at that time, probably -7. I mean, I've got big old Harry Carey goggles. I mean, I got major refraction problems. So he also knew that I had trouble sometimes hitting the curveball, hitting a slider, seeing a changeup, but he always matched me up with guys who could throw hard. If you threw a fastball, I was quick enough I could hit fastball. So what he did was he matched me up against certain guys that I was facing to allow me to have the most success. Why would I match Gary Varsho up, a guy who throws a lot of changeups, a lot of curveballs? The harder the thrower, the better matchup we can have, and the better matchup we can have for our team. Our team can have success because I'm putting this individual in a position where he's going to help our team as well. It's just not about Gary. I still have to rely on the team, but he matched me up, and so I understood. My numbers were relative because he allowed me to put me in position to have success for a long period of time.
Wow.
And I was able to contribute to the team.
Right. So what he was looking at was he knew your strengths. He wanted you to know your strengths. And then he created the opportunity for you to play with your strengths. I mean, that's phenomenal awareness on the part of Jim Leland.
And not only with me, it was so in a team oriented, you can't run the horses. You can't run the Derby without the horses. You got to have the horses. We get that. Right. So Barry Bonds, Andy Van Slyke, Bobby Bonilla, those were our horses. but you got to have everybody fill the gate. So the gate's got to be filled in order to run this race. So you got to have some horses, but it's the people around this that also parlay into having a team win. So he was the master at putting players and pitchers, relief pitchers especially, where do I fit this reliever into this game so he can have success as well? He knew the opponent, he knew his guys, he knew their strengths. And so therefore he parlayed 25 guys in the course of 162 games plus the playoffs. Where can I put these guys and make sure that they do well? And also where I have to pull them back saying, you know what? It's not the right situation for him. He's not going to play here, but this other one will. And so he was able to, it wasn't a rolling the chips and gamble. It was like, these are the guys that match up the best. He was the master at matching up talent versus the opponent. And therefore, everybody on our team, generally over the course of time, had a lot of success. And that's what made him so great.
Wow. Wow. Do you know, there's so much research that's been done, Gary, on teaching to fix weaknesses. So like in school, you get your paper back and it's looking at what you got wrong. It's not what you got right necessarily, right? You 82, that means I got 8 wrong, or however the mathematics works depending on the number of questions. So from an early age, we're taught to fix our weaknesses. Mm-hmm. And what Jim was having you do was to forget the weakness. Don't keep practicing how to fix it. Practice how you're going to make your strength stronger, because then that will take over and the weaknesses also begin to diminish.
Yeah, you hone your strengths.
Yeah.
I mean, what is it? Again, we all do something well. I think the poor managers in our society, and even when you're running a company, is that the glass is half full. What does this person bring to this company? What can this person do? And again, he was able to figure that out very quickly. What does this person do well? And then how can I use this person? And use is a bad word. How can this person enhance our team to make the team run efficiently? And so, and again, baseball is a team. I know corporations, I just talked to a gentleman the other day, and I know HR was talking about, well, I want to interview your team. He goes, I don't have a team. I have a bunch of guys that know what to do and how to do it. And they've got to get the job done because I need to get, and that's how he handles his company. But the guys relate very well to him because he's there talking to them and he's there on jobs and non-job site. So we go back to, yes, there's no perfect player. Every player has a weakness. But what strengths do I have, and how does it parlay into making sure that the wheels keep turning, the company keeps turning, we're moving forward? And again, not every day works out perfect. Not everything goes on. But I know one thing: he never put a player in position to fail. Because, and I think that's one of the things that management does, is that when we promote somebody, this guy does his job very, very well. He's an expert at this area, and he makes our company better. And I've seen this happen a lot of times in baseball. We promote somebody to another level, and guess what? He's not ready for that. He doesn't handle that very well. It can be from marketing to communications.
Right.
Bad choice. Now we got the 2 deficiencies. And now what do you, as a company representative, what do we have to do here? I've got 2 deficiencies here. So now I got to fix them both, as opposed to, and it's hard for this person now to go back, and now you got a void here. What are you going to do with this person? Go back to where he was at. You create more problems. You've got to make sure, as opposed to saying, you know what, we're not going to promote you to this job, but okay, financially, we're going to reward you here because you're a great component in what you do. Again, from a leadership standpoint, knowing your people, knowing the strengths of your people, it makes more sense to make sure that you don't create 2 problems just because somebody wants a promotion, as opposed to just keeping it the way it is, and make sure that that gentleman or woman, whoever it is, stays in that same job. You can give them a different title. You promote them financially, but they're too valuable to the company to lose because I don't have anybody here. Next thing you know, I've got 2 problems instead of 1.
Mm-hmm. So true. Along that same line, you talk about how you can always replace somebody with somebody better, but ultimately it's the attitude that's going to make the difference. And you tell a marvelous story about Todd Bessinger relative to that. Would you just share
Yes.
that with everybody? They'd love to hear it.
Well, one of the things that I was very lucky in my timetable with the Pirates. In '91, we won the division championship, played the Braves to go to the World Series, and '92 as well. '91, I had a great year. Got a chance. We were close to getting to the World Series, came up short. '92 was the same year, but Gary Varsho wasn't doing very well. So I knew I wasn't doing very well. Jim knew I wasn't doing very well. And as I look around baseball, there was a gentleman named Todd Benzinger, really good player, switch hitting first baseman. He got released. He was available to be a bench player. So what ended up happening was I went into Jim's office. Hold on a minute. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
I went into Jim's office, and I told him, I said, hey, I got something to ask you. And he goes, what's on your mind? And he goes, well, I said, I'm not doing too well right now, and I really want to win. I know this team has a chance to win and go to the World Series, and I'm trying to find myself. I'm trying to figure it out, but I know Todd Benzinger's out there available, and I think he probably could help our team more. And of course, in Jim's way, he goes, sit the fuck down. I'm going to explain something to you right now. Okay. So he goes, I'm going to tell you something that you're going to remember for a long time. This team needs is Todd fucking Benzinger. And I apologize to Todd if he's listening to this, because it's not about Todd, but it's about the whole element. But he goes, and I'm going to tell you why we don't need Benzinger. Todd Benzinger was a starter in the major leagues. He ended up getting released. He's available. Yep. Is he probably better than you? Absolutely. But the problem I'm going to have is the dynamic of this team. What's going to end up happening, he thinks he's going to end up playing over Gary Redus and Orlando Merced, who are our current first basemen. He's going to create dissension on the bench. He's going to cause me more problems than what it's worth. You, on the other hand, aren't going to create any problems. You're going to keep busting your ass. You're going to keep being prepared. Yep, the numbers don't shake out right now. I get that. But I know you care. I know I can trust you. I know I can trust you to be ready. So your job is to continue to do that process and get ready to help the Pittsburgh Pirates win. Do you understand that? I said, yeah, Jim, I got it. And he goes, now get the fuck out of here and go back to work and get ready to go, because I need you here more than I need Todd Benzinger. And it really opened my eyes, because a lot of times, I mean, people do get shuffled in and out because we think that we got something better. But again, head and heart, understanding the person became much more important to Jim than trying to get maybe a better talented player.
Going with the known quantity when the attitude is right is often much more valuable, isn't it?
Yes. I mean, we're just going to have some downfall days. We're going to have some bumps in the road. Okay. I just need to get Gary Varsho in the situation redirected. It'll work out. It'll be fine. You're going to help us win. Believing in the employee, believing in me. Okay. And I'll go through the wall for Jim Leland. He knows that. I want to help us win. And that was really big.
You also talk a little bit about a humbling moment. Maybe, I don't know, was it humbling? I don't know. When Jim, you were getting ready to bat, and Jim sent you up to the clubhouse for him. I want to share that story, because I think it's a delightful story about, we have one expectation and things go another way. And what is it that we learn from that?
Well, Jim liked to bust my balls. He liked to have fun. And it's interesting, when those times came, we had a really fun relationship. And so again, this is early in the year, and I always prided myself on being prepared. I always prided myself on making sure that if Jim called my name, I was ready. Very seldom was I not ready. And so we're in Dodger Stadium, and it's the seventh inning, and we're in a tie ball game. And I know that the pitcher spot is due up, and chances are there's a right-handed pitcher on the mound. and I'm getting prepared to possibly pinch hit, depending upon what happens as we get down to the pitcher spot in the order. So I've got my helmet ready. I've already taken my swings. I'm sweating. I'm ready. I've been in the cage and working a little bit. So we get a leadoff guy on. Another runner gets over. We got a runner on second, and we have our 8-hole. Chico Lean is the hitter. He's number 8 in our order, and he gets a base hit, and we score the run. And our pitcher's due up next, who's Bob Walk. And so the crowd's going wild and all that, and Jim yells up down on the bench, "Varsho, jump up!" I'm getting ready to hit, and I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Run down back to the clubhouse and go get me another pack of cigarettes. I just ran out." I looked at him. I go, "What? Give me a pack of cigarettes. I need them now." And I went, "Okay, Jim, you got it." So I ran up there, brought these packs of Marlboro back. I said, "What happened to the pinch hit?" He goes, "God damn it, we just scored the run. I don't need you now, so just get back and get ready for the next time." And I laughed, and the whole bench laughed, and we all laughed. And it was like an icebreaker, and it just shows that even in the heat of the moment, he was able to, I mean, I don't know what goes through his mind sometimes, but I know one thing. It just opens up dialogue, and we all laugh about it, and we laugh about it to this day. And, just on his mind. And again, I was the guy that, he could do things like that with. There's some guys that wouldn't get it, but he would do that with another guy once in a while to do something odd. Just this is what I'm thinking about. So anyway, it was a great. It creates a friendship that we all laugh about, and even the coaches laughed about it. And it was like one of those icebreakers in a really tense moment. And again, it was just one of those special times.
So what's interesting is, in a sense, by not needing you at the moment, it really was an icebreaker, wasn't it, for everybody? Because he put the humor in it. It was something different than what you expected.
Correct. And that was one of his greatest traits. He could put humor in many other situations, especially when things were going tight or things were pressurized. Laugh a little bit. Okay, let's regroup. And we all chuckled in it, and it's okay. I didn't feel at all like, oh, what? Me? Come on. Yeah, I'm a big league player. That's like, no, I could do this, and you can bust my ass. And I get it. So it's all good.
You also shared another story about Jim Leland, which kind of goes along with that, about how he knew what the bonus structure was and how he used you in one of the last games that you were playing as he thought that through. I want to share that because I think it's a powerful story about really taking care of the people that are on your team.
Well, one of the things that a lot of us had signed, when we signed our contract, we had what's incentives. And usually for a guy like myself, it was game incentives. So if I appeared in a game, that would count as 1 and 2. And then whenever I pitched it, that would be a game appearance. And so I had bonuses if I appeared in 75 games, 80 games, 90 games, depending on how much playing time. And so I signed it. It's like it was a great clause in there, but I never really kept count. I just wanted to be part of it. And that was something that my agent had set up. Well, anyway, again, I always pride myself on being prepared. So we're in Montreal, 9th inning, 2 outs. We're winning like 7, 8, or 9-0. So we're going to win this game. And Steve Buechele, who was our third baseman, gets a single with 2 outs. And of course, Jim yells, "Varsho, get your helmet, go run for him." I was not prepared. So I found my helmet, ran over there, got the first base. Next guy hits a weak ground ball to the shortstop. I'm out at second. I come walking in. I go, "You want me to stay in the game?" He goes, "No, sit the fuck down, get on the bench." Just beside the point. We get the 3 outs. I am just confused. Pinch run with 2 outs in the 9th. What is he doing? So, of course, our relationship is built where I'm going to ask. So I waited. I can't remember if it was the next day or the other day. I go, "Why did you put me in the game?" I go, I'm usually prepared. He goes, "Well, you got incentives, don't you?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, well, you just reached your incentive. You're going to get a $20,000 check. I said, what? He goes, yeah, your incentives. I gave you a chance to let you make some extra money here. Now, your next incentive is way far away. Chances are you ain't going to get that. He goes, if I keep pushing into the games for 2 outs in the 9th inning, the front office is going to come and jump my ass. But he goes, you deserve it. He goes, you've busted your ass. He goes, you know what? I'm going to take care of you. Words I couldn't describe it. I appreciate it so much. It's like, holy man, he did something for me that I don't think very many people would really realize, that, again, taking care of me. He knows that I'd do anything for him, but this is just another way of him saying, I appreciate what you do. And it was like out of nowhere, but he knew more about what I signed than even I did. And so it was a great way of somebody's just it was the Christmas bonus.
Right.
You didn't expect, and it was like, wow. Because, again, even when we're ball players and all that, we still have families and houses and mortgages and insurance and kids. And so it's like, enjoy it. I'm not going to do it all the time now, but I can do it this time. So, I mean, again, that's the people person in Jim.
But part of what that says, Gary, is leadership is so much more than just getting through, achieving a goal. Getting your team to come with you, to pull with you, involves taking care of them along the way. And
Absolutely.
Jim had an innate sense about when to do that. I mean, that's part of what you're saying, because he wasn't going to do it all the time, but he knew at this time, for whatever reason, it was the right time.
Well, it's interesting. He knew I was one game away from reaching this incentive. And yeah, it was August, September-ish. So the season's kind of dwindling down, and it was an opportunity for him to do something really great for Gary Varsho, because all this guy has done for us is bust his ass and shut his mouth and performed. And you know what? I can do some little things for this guy right here, and it's the right thing to do. So again, being aware, and he did it for other guys, being aware of where the guys are at. And again, he got everybody to tug at the same end of the rope all the time, because these are the little things that he would do for guys that really no one else knew about. You know, just him and I talking. No one else knew about it. And so it was really neat.
You know, so much of what comes through in talking with you, Gary, is your love for what you do. And I mean, there's a passion about baseball, about the process, about management, about what your experience was. And you've shared how important it is to do what you love and to be passionate about what you love to do. I'm going to talk a little bit about that and where that comes from for you.
Well, I think when you grow up, you find something that you really enjoy doing, and hopefully you have a surround team of parents that you share that with as well, and they take an interest in it. So, I mean, my parents loved being at the ballpark, and we were there. But even if I had not made the major leagues, I think I still today would probably be really involved in baseball, and obviously I am, but in athletics in general, because it's a passion that everybody's good at something. Could be art, could be music, could be playing the piano, musical. Everybody's good at something, and I think it's really important to keep pushing a little bit of, okay, let's practice this, let's do this. And I don't know, the passion for me was so innate. It was I just had this innate passion to excel in baseball. It's hard to describe unless you really have that. But I was not the type that was willing to stomp on anybody to get where I was going to go, because and my son and I talk about this a lot. The only thing I can control is myself, and this is what I want to do, and this is my passion. So eventually you have to take control of what your destination will be. You have to be accountable, and what is it you want to do? there's a basketball coach that my daughter trained with here a little bit. He's the varsity basketball coach here. And he goes, what are you doing when nobody's watching? I think a lot of times, a lot of times we have to, when we come to work today, my wife's in cardiac rehab. Okay, so she's going to work today, but she has already done her prep work at home a little bit, knowing that the patient she's going to care for. So when she goes to attack her day and to create patient care, she's got some kind of toehold on her day a little bit, where she's going to go and what she's going to do and how the care is going to go. I think spending time, again, we all work, and when work is done, we go home. And not that we have to bring work home with us. I really think the passion is, how can I make tomorrow go well? What can I do? And you think about a little bit, and you don't want to don't want to bring work home with you, especially in a baseball culture a little bit. You don't want to bring your bad day at home, but it's okay to talk about a little bit, but try to move on a little bit. But that inner passion that you have for your work, I think it really comes from the surrounding cast as we go on here. Hopefully you're in an environment that you create, that you have passionate people coming to work, care about work, care about one another. I get it. I know it's hard, but I also remember many times I was with the Reds for a while, Cincinnati Reds for a year, and I also coached at the major league level with the Phillies. There were times where I hated the ballpark because the environment was so crappy. I wasn't surrounded by passionate people. It was very poor leadership, and basically it was going to work and hurry up and leave, and really didn't spend the quality of time because people took it away from me.
Right.
And it's hard when the most wonderful experience we can have is when we have leadership people in place that, again, I go back to some simple values. Being able to say hello in the morning and make good eye contact, and you really have a caring, and you know the team is going to function correctly. We're all on the same page. And then again, the dynamic of work ethic and attitude. I've always had that, and I'm hoping as I grow older, trying to exhibit that in current meetings that I have. I mean, I'm high energy. I'm a type A personality. I've learned to understand myself, but I'm not going to be the guy that's going to sit in a corner and never say a word. I want to make sure that if I do have the information, I have a question, but I want to bring energy to the room. And that's one of the things I think that saved me in my career, is that the energy that I brought. Now, sometimes it's good energy. Sometimes it doesn't always work out, but energy in the room. And so the passion I think we have is, do we have the energy inside to want to do things more than just punch in at 8 and leave at 5?
Right.
I want to be energy driven with my employees. So I think that's always been a big factor. And playing for Jim was the energy. Jim was the Energizer Bunny. He always brought the energy, good or bad, especially when things were going bad. When a company goes poorly, when things are going bad, we can't get a win. One of the things that Jim did I thought was really interesting. We went on an 8-game losing streak. And he sat almost all the starters and played all the guys he could on the bench for one game on a Sunday afternoon in St. Louis. And I'll never forget it. We came out and we won the game. We stopped our current hitting streak. And I said, "What was the greatest thing in the world?" And people were going, how did you win that game? He goes, "I'll tell you what. Our extra players won that game for us because they brought energy today. They had passion for today. They very interesting dynamic. He sat the regular, sat Barry Bonds, sat Andy Van Slyke. Were we the most talented on the floor on the game that day? No. But he says, you know what? I'm not rolling the dice. I'm gonna put these other guys out there, good or bad. We're going so bad right now. We put these guys in position, and the energy that was brought up, and actually revitalized the horses. The whole team got energized. It was really interesting. And again, that's just one situation where, again, doing something outside the box instead of staying inside the box with him, he did it all the time.
So how do you find energy, and where do you find it? That's what he did, basically.
He was the energy. Yeah. He wasn't the guy. You have to understand, and again, I'm not privy to a whole lot of businesses where the boss comes in, but one thing about Jim, again, he's got meetings he has to attend. He's got to account for administrative. There's sometimes he's got to be in his office, but he was not an office guy. He was out on the floor. He was out in the locker room. He was out interacting with guys. And again, that was before we took batting practice. But again, we talked about this a little bit. During batting practice, he was not the guy that was going to sit behind the cage and just watch BP for 45 minutes. He would go out in the outfield and he would start talking to all the players, and he was connecting with them personally, not professionally, personally. How are things at home? How do you feel today? Is everything okay? And you know what? Hey, be ready to play today. And that was always his message. And he would start to try to hit as many people as he can on a daily basis. Wow. And you know what? He created a dynamic where you knew where he was sitting. You didn't wonder where Jim was at. You knew where Jim was at as far as him communicating all the time.
It's incredible. Gary, last thoughts that you would like to share? This has been wonderful. I always feel like I could listen to your stories for hours, and I think our listeners probably feel the same as well. Other last thoughts that you would like to share before we close for the morning? Well,
again, I've been very blessed with playing with and dealing with a whole lot of different people in our game of baseball. Don Zimmer, I played for in the big leagues, was a tremendous, tremendous man. Got to know him personally once I left the Cubs, and he really cared, and he really cared about the game, but a different dynamic and a different personality. Very strict, very hard-nosed, very wouldn't communicate a whole lot, but loved to have fun, but you never knew it until you got him outside the arena.
Yeah.
Jim Leland was the total opposite. Inside or outside the arena, he was the same guy. And to this day, he's still the same guy. People talk to him all the time, still the same guy. Played for Jim Fregosi in Philadelphia, sort of like Jim. Good-hearted, upbeat, brought the energy, talked to his players all the time, had a lot of success. So what I try to do when I started my coaching career is have that same personality, always outside, talk to. I saw what happened. I saw how players responded well. And again, you're going to have some tough conversations. But in our society today, tough conversations are better to have between two people than texting and emailing. It's okay, because tough conversations creates dialogue. And another thing that we had talked about previously is that when we have those tough conversations, it's interesting. Do you want to be the administrator, or do you want to talk in a very comfortable way? And when I say that, if you're the type that sits behind your desk and your employee comes in and you have this desk between them, you show your authority. You are the boss, and you're going to tell this person who is underneath you what you want done and how that, and those are times for that. But if you really want to understand the person, get out from behind your desk and have two people share in a conversation. You'll get more out of that. And I learned that too from Andy McPhail when I was trying to change career from player to being a coach. He talked to me, and Jim did that often. Very seldom was Jim ever behind his desk. Always two people talking, because we're both human. What are you feeling? What's going on? Because I feel more freely if I want to really know about this person outside the desk than being behind it. So a lot of lessons that I've learned along the way. It's just really good people relations. We get to know people more often. We get to really know the heartbeat. And sometimes you have to make a tough decision in business and what you want to do and how you want to get people. But again, knowing the person is the number one priority. And again, Jim Leland knew his people better than anybody.
Gary, thank you so much. And I just appreciate the time that you've given us. And I think that there are going to be a lot of people in the workforce that are going to just enjoy listening to your thoughts. So thank you very, very much.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.